I still see this tendency amongst PAP leaders to harken back to, oh, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, right? And I'm wondering, does it help you or does it hurt you? Because I'm really thinking that I understand why you're doing this, right? Drawing on the
Yeah,
legitimacy. But in my mind, right, what if people start to compare you to,
yeah.
and they're not even comparing you to the actual version of Lee Kuan Yew. It's a romanticized
Right.
version of Lee Kuan Yew. It's already the our version of Lee
Exactly.
Kuan Yew.
You want to ask, like, do you remember what it was when Lee Kuan Yew was
Yes,
alive? Do
yes,
you
yes.
really want that
So,
again?
so I mean, a simple example, right? Lee Kuan Yew's last two elections, the vote share started dipping already. But
Yeah.
now for us, when we look at it, it's impossible. Like we think of him as omnipotent, right? But now, so when we keep hearkening back to that, right? Are you setting up standards that is almost impossible for you to?
Yeah,
What do you
yeah.
think? What do you think
Well,
about
I
this?
mean, I think of it this way, right? Imagine there's an axis. So on one side there is let's call it demand for change, right? Looking at the PAP, right?
Right,
The PAP changing over
right,
time. So there's a demand for change. On another axis, let's call it the perception of whether it has changed or not, right? So
right,
you have four possibilities, right? In one box, you'll see that the view is the PAP should not change. It should be like the Lee Kuan Yew
right,
PAP,
right,
and it hasn't changed, right? So that's good, right? So you have a kind of view
right, right, right,
that this PAP has
right,
stuck to its values and its foundational ideas, and it's in spite of everybody saying, "Oh, you've got to change. Circumstances are different," right? They've stuck to it, and Singapore will prosper because of this North Star thing, right? So I think there are a bunch of supporters who are like this, right?
yeah,
They want the PAP to be the same. Again, romanticized idea
right,
perhaps, but idea of the Lee Kuan Yew's PAP is
yeah,
still, we're still faithful to that. Then you also have a box where they feel the party shouldn't change, right? It should stick to the PAP
yeah.
value, founding values, but it has,
Mm,
right? So this is a group of people who probably view the PAP as like lost its way, because it shouldn't change, right? So it's unmoored from its founding values, and I guess it's this what's the phrase that's often used? They betray their
right,
values, right? It's kind of lost its way, right?
right.
The PAP has lost its way. So is that kind of view? Then you have a box of people who say PAP needs to
Yeah,
change, right? Because for whatever reason, maybe they feel Lee Kuan Yew was okay for
right,
that time, but now it's not,
right,
right?
right,
Or they
right,
may feel like Lee Kuan Yew was always a terrible thing,
right, right.
right, for Singapore, and we're paying the price of that now. But it's got to change, and it hasn't, right? So this sort of notion of this defensive PAP who keeps doing formulaic things, they don't want to change, right? And they're defensive and they're decaying in the process. So it's kind of defensive decay. And then there's a fourth box, which is this idea that the PAP should change, and it is evolving over time, and it's kind of adapting, and it's
Right.
more resilient than we think, right? So I mean, in response to that, I see four
Right.
types of positions about where the PAP should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. I was just smiling. I saw Swillin's comment. She said some of us woke up late. She said in response to what I said, how come people they abandon the PAP, right? As in she was
Ah,
talking about herself waking up late.
yeah.
But you're right. I think yours is a sophisticated way of looking at it.
Because sometimes we don't
And
know
that,
what this means, right?
yes,
When we say that the 4G is like not doing as well as what,
exactly.
right?
Yes, yes, yes. And also some of the problems that, okay, number one issue they are gonna be facing in the election is housing, right? That wasn't their making, right? That was the first generation did it, right?
Mm.
They turned public housing into an asset, right?
Yeah,
What can Lawrence Wong do
yeah,
now? Like, so
exactly,
so
exactly.
so I always find it strange when they say, oh, this wouldn't have happened. I remember during the reserve presidency, and if you remember, I think the PAP also got a road shock how many people opposed the constitutional change. And
Mm.
I saw one of the arguments they were saying that, uh, and I think it's okay to oppose that, right? It's just that the particular reasoning, they were saying, oh, if Lee Kuan Yew was alive, he would have never let politics be based on race. I say, have you heard of the GRC?
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of invoke Lee Kuan Yew to
Yes,
support or to
yes.
challenge whatever it is we like or don't like, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, correct. So,
yeah,
and it's interesting, right? Because even those who are against the PAP will
yeah,
use today,
yes,
they will use Lee Kuan Yew's memory, right? Yeah, it's just so,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So
So,
interesting, and this is
mm,
the, I guess, the real meaning of being abused after you die, right? And this, this is probably the real fear he had,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So even now, I'm sure you follow the exchange, right, between Louis Tuck Yew, the ambassador to the US, and so the issue is now about who is basically upholding Lee Kuan Yew's legacy, right? Who is
Yeah,
dishonoring Lee Kuan Yew's
yeah,
legacy? So, and it's 10 years since he passed, right? And
yes.
this is still a topic of discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
we are all prone to
Mm.
mythologizing, right? I mean,
and
yeah,
I guess human beings sort of need, right?
yeah. We need the heroes, the
Yeah,
semi-divine heroes of the past, right? To cast a light on the
yeah.
present and to,
Yeah.
kind of give us
But
hope.
it's also dangerous for the development of a populace, right? Don't you think? If
Yes,
we
sure.
keep, yeah,
I mean,
you
this
keep
idea
thinking about a
of wanting
person instead,
heroes and all of that is very infantilizing, right?
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Instead of us, right? We
Mm.
are the ones who should be like. One of the, I guess, manifestations of this is also, maybe this is a bit of a digression. I find that even when people are in dispute with each other, they don't really resolve it among themselves. They call for more
Mm.
government, right? They call for more government.
Mm.
If there's a problem in your estate, right, what we should have? If there are kids playing at the football, let's have football at the void deck. Let's have more cameras, CCTV cameras, so we can. So it's not like, okay, why don't we go down as neighbors and talk to them,
Yeah.
and things like, it's almost like we have infantilized ourselves as a population
Absolutely. I think
with too much.
it's that tell teacher kind of
Yeah,
thing, right? It's like, and I guess it's conditioned through that really heavy paternalism
yeah,
of the past, right? In the sense that the infantilization also is the disempowerment of
yeah,
everyone, right? The fact that you're kind of invited into civil society, but to come in and perform according to the rules set. But that's a deeply disempowering kind of approach, right?
yeah,
And I guess that carries deeply into the culture and our sense of how to solve problems today as well. Right? We turn to, the modality is to report some wrongdoing and to sort of send it to the authorities and expect them to do something about it. And this is, I guess, the negative consequences of all this paternalism over all these years. And we continue to be paternalist.
how will that change, you think?
I think it will just change uh, because, as you grow up, you kind of realize your parents aren't all that perfect, right? And you kind of see them for all their flaws and parents ought to also let their kids kind of grow up and at some point be friends with,
Yeah,
with your kids, right? And then everybody realizes that we're just all just human, right? We're
yeah,
deeply flawed, and we don't have these ridiculous ideas that politicians need to be white. I mean, they should strive to be clean
yeah,
and so on, but the expectation that they're sort of divine
yeah.
and
Yeah,
are
that's
without fault and without human instinct or without kind of human motivations and all of that. I think that's really the essence of Singapore
yeah,
childishness.
yeah.